Hey everybody. Okay, so today is part four, and I think probably the last part of the series. Why is what I eat actually important? And today, there's just stuff that I want to say, but this topic is so easy to kind of like go down the rabbit hole or whatever you would say, right? And kind of get lost in all the information that's out there, and especially all the conflicting information that's out there because there's so much. And so when I'm doing these videos, I like to, just look up some more articles and, make sure I know what I'm going to say, make sure I feel confident in the information I'm going to put out there and stuff like that. And I was trying to research different things to make sure I felt confident talking about them. And I did. I just went down this hole, this black hole of like all this information. And oh my gosh, it could get so detailed and people have all these conflicting opinions and it could get heated. And so what I'm going to try and do is just keep it love bug, keep it as basic as possible, like giving you details but not too many details that people are going to start to like freak out, and really just kind of giving a little maybe outside perspective that maybe you haven't thought of before. Okay, so tell me if that sounds good. And if you're here watching, say hi. If you're watching the replay, write #replay, be like, hey, I'm watching the replay, girl. So what I want to talk about today is obviously the types of foods that we eat are super important. That's what this whole series has been about, right? And I feel like up until this point, it's been a lot about, or I like to put a lot of focus on whole foods versus processed foods. Obviously whole foods is the direction that we want to go. We want to eat less and less processed foods, convenient foods if we possibly can, because whole foods are just so much better for our body in so many different ways. But that also goes for whole foods. So we want to eat the best quality whole foods that we possibly can too. And there's a lot of different reasons for that as well, right? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about high quality whole foods and what that kind of looks like and how to start gravitating towards that and why. So to start off, I mean, let me remind you of the phrase, you are what you eat, right? We are what we eat, and we are what we absorb most of all. And so let's start thinking about the things that we absorb when we eat lower quality, even whole foods. Lower quality meaning, filled with chemicals, sprayed with all those pesticides and herbicides. Like when we're getting produce that's sprayed with all of those chemicals, our body does absorb that, right? Yes, it absorbs the nutrients of the produce, but it also absorbs all the bad crap as well, right? And in this day and age, I mentioned this in the last video, we're living in this incredibly toxic age. I mean, there's toxins coming at us from everywhere, not just our food, but the air we breathe, the water we drink, the skin products, the hair products, like everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like they're finding hundreds of chemicals just in freaking umbilical cords, like we're full of toxins. And so, every time we opt for the produce that's sprayed with the pesticides and herbicides, like we absorb that. Right? And that just every time we do that, it makes it harder and harder on our bodies to process them and to eliminate them. Our livers are working on overdrive trying to get these toxic chemicals out of us, right? Same thing when it goes to meat. Maybe you don't eat meat and that's cool, but for those of us that do eat meat, like why opt for grass-fed or, organic chicken or wild-caught fish, and because I know it's more expensive. It is, right? Most times it's more expensive. And so why do that? Well, think about conventionally raised meat and what those animals are going through. They're living in terrible conditions, terrible environment, fed a completely unnatural diet. They're being pumped with antibiotics, growth hormones. I mean, it's disgusting, right? And then when we eat them, we absorb some of that as well. And I think we all know how hard antibiotics in general can be on a body, right? And of course, eating a piece of chicken isn't like taking a round of a Z-Pack or something. But like we're constantly, I mean, we're having meat probably every day, us meat eaters, you know, and then you just keep absorbing that and absorbing that and absorbing that. And if the meat that we're eating is not living a natural, living their best life, it is going to affect our bodies as well. Whereas, so this is when eating foods in their most natural state applies to whole foods as well. That means animals that are fed their natural diet. They can roam the pastures, right, and eat grass, and the chickens are eating their little wormies and buggies or whatever they eat, right? Like not these grains or where they say they're feeding them candy bars still in the wrapper, or feeding cows all of this crap, and pigs, and, you know, just anything to make them eat and pump them up well past the size that they're ever meant to be pumped up to, just so that we can get bigger chicken breasts easier for cheaper, right? So think about that. Think about what that's actually doing to your body over time, just ingesting all of this crap that is just so unnatural, right? And then we have to think about oils too. We're all cooking in oils all the time. There's a lot of conflicting information about what oils are best. And then this is when it's really important to look at, I think a lot of times we just look at what's in an oil and decide if it's healthy or not. But we also have to look at how it's being absorbed in the body, how it's being made. Is it being made with incredibly non-natural processes? And then how is it being absorbed by the body? What actually happens inside the body when you have this stuff, right? And that's why it becomes so much more than just like, well, this oil has a lot of saturated fat, so it's bad. But what's it actually doing in your body to your different cholesterol levels and things like that, and vice versa, right? And so I'd like to use canola oil as a specific example of an oil that in the past has been touted as heart healthy, and I'm not sure if people still think that, but I know it's cheap and it's easy to buy, and why wouldn't we if we didn't know, right? And so so let's look at a couple things about canola oil and why these little things add up and make a difference. So first of all, most of the canola oil that's on the shelves is from genetically modified plants, right? It's from genetically modified products. That is not eating foods that are in their most natural state. It's already genetically modified, and we just don't know what that kind of stuff is doing to our bodies, right? We just don't have enough information on that yet. But with as much research that's been changing, that we're realizing all these things have drastic effects on our bodies, I don't really want to risk it, right? I want to be eating foods that are in their most natural state, because we know how our bodies respond to that. And so these crops are genetically modified to be resistant to glyphosate, to Roundup, right? So then you have these farmers just putting glyphosate all willy-nilly, just dousing these crops with this stuff because, well, it's genetically modified to not die when you put all that crap on it, right? And then we know now what glyphosate does to the body. It's a known carcinogen, right? It can lead to intense health problems, right? And so all of that is getting in our oils. And then guess what? These oils, these seed oils are super refined, right? And they're heated up to these super high temperatures that can actually create trans fats within them. We all know how bad trans fats are. That's like the one thing that everyone actually can agree on, that trans fats are horrible for your health. And that's when you see that hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oil on your ingredient list, right? So read your ingredient list. And those oils are meant to be taken out of all of our foods by a certain point, but it takes a long time for that stuff to catch up. But so the process of heating them and refining them so much with toxic chemicals can actually turn into trans fats, which are terrible for your body. Not to mention, it creates these high levels of omega-6 rather than omega-3, right? And we know both of those fats can be healthy, but they have to be within a certain ratio for it to have a good impact on your body. And most people are eating a diet that's super high in omega-6 and really low in omega-3s, and that kind of thing creates inflammation in the body. And now we know how many different types of diseases are caused by inflammation, inflammatory diseases, right? And that is just a simple oil that we're like, oh, it's cheap, I don't know, vegetable oil, right? And that's just like the most basic outline that I can give you, right? Like, that's not even hitting point by point all of the craziness that happens with these super refined oils. So again, that's when it becomes so important to try and get things that are closer to their natural state. For example, like cold pressed extra virgin olive oil, right? Cold pressed, it's not heated to that super high heat that then it just makes these oils super unstable and can create extra free radicals in your body, right? Oxidative stress. Gah! Just a simple oil that we're cooking with all the time can wreak havoc on our bodies, right? So just pay attention, be aware, get foods that are in their most natural state. I feel like there was so much more that I wanted to say about this, and now I'm starting to draw a blank. Let's talk about butter. Now we know that margarine is terrible for you. If you're having margarine, cut it out. And we want to start gravitating towards things that are in their more natural state. Butter is more natural than margarine, but let's also talk about the quality of butter. Grass-fed butter versus standard butter. Why would I maybe pay more for grass-fed butter? Well, these foods that are more in their more natural state, cows being fed their proper diet, in turn creates two more nutritious foods. There are literally more vitamins present in grass-fed butter than there are standard butter, and vitamins that we don't even necessarily get from a lot of our foods, right? Not to mention toxins are stored in fat, right? So if you're getting regular butter from these toxic cows, right, that have been fed all of these toxic chemicals their whole lives, that can actually store more in that fat. And then, hello, we're absorbing it. You feel me? So, this is why it is just so important to just have that extra awareness, right? Give it a little Google, read the ingredient lists, see what you can find out. Watch out what oils are best for cooking at high temperatures, right? Because then we got a whole nation also that's thinking, okay, well, cold pressed extra virgin olive oil, I'll just cook everything in that. Hello, I just did that. Up until really recently, when you find out, well, it can only really be cooked up to a certain temperature, and then again, it becomes unstable, right? And you have to get more of an avocado oil that's responsible to heat. There's all these things that we have to think about. When they get to a certain point, how are they actually absorbing in our bodies? What is going on in our bodies? That's where the difference lies. And I know you might be thinking, but Heather, this crap can get really expensive, and I feel you, I do. And so that's when it comes down to just doing the best that you can. When it comes to health, that's literally all you can do. We don't need to stress about it, because stress is terrible for our health. But just do the best that you can. Become aware, right? Read those articles, read the health magazines, do your research. Be sure when you're looking at studies as well, where they're coming from, who's funding these studies. Because as I was going down the rabbit hole of looking up canola oil, hey, there's one study saying it's good. Who's this funded by? Oh, canola. Okay, right? Like, we have to be aware of that as well. Who's actually funding these studies? And then just doing the best that you can. Maybe you can't always get grass-fed, organic, wild-caught, this perfect diet or whatever. We can't always get that. But what can you do? What small steps can you take? Maybe you get grass-fed meat for one meal this week. Maybe you look at the Dirty Dozen list on EWG.org. The Dirty Dozen list for your produce. The Dirty Dozens, the 12 items of produce that are shown to have the most pesticides. So If you can't opt for completely organic, you can just choose to get organic for those 12. And then there's the clean and 15 that shows the least amount of pesticides. Maybe with those, you don't opt for organic and save some money there. Or how about organic frozen? A lot of times those are cheaper. It doesn't mean they're less nutritious. In fact, sometimes they're picked at peak nutritional value, right? Whereas other ones, the fresh ones, are picked kind of before they're ready so that they can withstand the truck drive into the store, right? So there's nothing wrong with frozen. Just make sure there's no added ingredients. Read the ingredient list, right? What else? You know, shop your farmers markets. Just look for sales. Eat produce that's in season. Again, it's going to be cheaper and more nutritious because it's readily available. It's right there. There are ways that you can go about this. You just have to be a little bit more aware, and then and don't freak out about it. Just do the best that you can, one step at a time. That's literally all you ever have to do when it comes to health. What's the best thing I can do for myself in this moment? That's it, right? No stress. Yeah, so that's my tangent about that. If you want, I've been posting about this, and I'm going to do another video about this as well. But when I said it's about what your body can actually absorb as well, you are what you eat, and it's what your body absorbs. And some people are capable of absorbing different things versus others. And so I might say, oh, well, broccoli is super healthy for you, but then you might not be able to tolerate broccoli for whatever reason is going on in your body, right? So that means that maybe broccoli isn't that healthy for you, right? And so at the end of the day, it comes down to personal experimentation. Every expert that I listen to or read their books or whatever says, hey, we can recommend diets that we think are ideal, but at the end of the day, you don't really know what's best for you until you do personal experimentation to figure out what foods make you feel the best. And that is what I'm spending the whole month of May helping people do, is experiment with your own body so that you know what's best. And that has to do with food, but also with how you're eating, when you're eating, you know, what thoughts you're thinking while you're taking care of your body, literally tuning into your body's own signals like you never have before. What happens when you feel hungry? What happens when you feel full? Are you even in tune with those signals? Because so many people are not. After years of being told all the wrong information, eat less, exercise more, you know, your cravings are some terrible thing that you should never have, just rely on your willpower, you know, or all of these fad diets where people are just on this roller coaster of kind of restrict and binge, we lose touch with our bodies. We're in our heads, we're out of our bodies, and it should be the opposite. And once you get into your body and start listening to those natural signals, you start to learn exactly what is best for you. And you can stop always trying to search for that one thing that's going to make all the difference, right? Because your body's going to tell you what works and what doesn't. And so if you're interested in that, I would love to have you join us on this month-long journey. It's going to be way different than anything I've ever done. The format is totally different. I'm super excited. I think it's going to be perfect for busy people. The videos are going to be shorter than this one. It's going to be just great information in a shorter time frame, lower investment. And I just wanted to bring you guys something new and different and exciting. So if you're interested in that, hit me up, and I'll do a video just on that, I think, within the next couple days, because we're starting May 1st. And thank you for watching this video and this series. And again, if you have any questions or aha moments, write them in the comments, because I love to hear. I want to hear what stuck out to you, what works for you. And if you need any support, just let me know, because I'm here for you. All right, have a good weekend. Bye.